Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to LL3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date is Saturday, June 13th, 2020. Yes, the autonomous zone in Seattle. Well, 6 city blocks. They want demands and pretty flamboyant indeed. Including reparations. Get all the money from one particular group, but others that did slavery in the past is considered exceptional. Of course, retrials of all color. But now they want supplies, allegedly speaking. Part of the insurrectionist movement. I may just look at them as pawns of the game. Yeah, I can say that. It's been pre-arranged for a good period of time. At least 3 years. The George Floyd case made it more like, hey, it's a good time to do it. And what's odd, they were talking about a bunch of these troublemakers wanted to go to a town in Idaho, I guess Cordero. They never showed up because everyone in that town were armed from all walks of life, ethnically speaking. Stood as one. That's their town. You're not going to burn it down. They never showed up. Well, one thing I could tell you this, my friends. An armed society is a polite one. That's why, probably one of the reasons why Seattle may have been consensually hijacked. But they may not be an armed community. But a lot of it's prearranged as well. Even the mayor exposed herself for what she is. I guess why President Trump is ready for bringing federal troops if necessary. But according to the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, there is a clause in there that the states or local municipalities have to request it. So, listen to a show on that by Mike Adams. Made a statement on that scenario. And so did Chrisanne Hall. And very good narratives, content, what they addressed. Recommend you folks follow them. Just look up, Natural News or the Chrisanne Hall show. Say, look the third sent you. It is important to know the real deal, not what the mainstream garbage media is displaying. People they throw a bone across the street in the middle of traffic. All the bone fetchers go for it, like run their tongues hanging out. So it's gonna be. I have a feeling the only thing they're doing is having Trump win again. And I'm not a big Trump lover. Okay, I'll be very frank. And people that know me personally and on this podcast, I've been pretty honest about that. But it doesn't mean if he farts, I'm gonna have a cow. People get excited over petty things. A lot of double standards too. People should know what the hell is going on in the real world. What's going on around the world. You think we're the problem? Yeah, and the foreign policy is pretty bad. But I know, like I said, President Trump is trying to do certain things, not getting in more wars, including deploying his troops out of Germany, which I think that's a good thing. I do support that. Bring all our troops home, as a Ron Paul would attest to. Yeah, so it's nice and warm out here, pretty quiet in Fort Lauderdale. So you may hear some stuff in the background. See some folks walking by. Yeah, I'm in a picnic area of the garage. Pretty cool. So this is one of the areas we always gotta say. Don't fall for the hype. Look at these events thoroughly. Observe responsibly. See how deep this thing goes. But don't go over strenuous. Or just listen to the bobbleheads to tell you something. Always gotta look at things a little bit more deeper than what it is. Yes, it is a New World Order coup. And the kids in Seattle, for example, are pawns of the game. And many others as well. Spray painting all statues and monuments, doesn't matter what it is. Trying to take away our heritage as a whole. Like they did to the blacks in Africa, they took away their names and heritage. And sometimes even the federal government did it with indoctrinating American Indians, Native American children, indoctrinate them too. So, just an example about suppression. I despise it all. If you don't like it, too bad. Because I don't give a damn what you think. It's always good to know all sides of the matter. If some folks can't comprehend it, that's not my problem. All I gotta say is, examine it, observe responsibly, and judge for yourself. Because always, when it comes to history, even world and national, world, city, don't matter. We have to get all sides of the story. What was the cause and the effect on how it happened. Some people may get touchy if I throw something out there, and they get a little bit annoyed. Hey, I'm not trying to do that to you at all. Just give you some information. That's it. And it's not from some control freak hacks. I make sure I don't do that. And don't get me wrong, I made my errors as well. I'm sending stuff out. I didn't know that later on they were globally funded, all that, deep state funded, whatever you want to call it. But you learn from it. Always try to be the wiser person. I know I'm digressing here. Forgive me, folks. However, I'm going to talk about something that happened 40 years ago. And you can thank the National Security Archive on this. It's about the Walter Rodney murder mystery in Guyana 40 years later. It was published today. And you can thank Mary Curry for this. And documents chart of U.S. Embassy's effort to answer question about the 1980 death of an acclaimed scholar and political activist. There's related links to this as well. You can look for those up yourself. We'll look at a brief biography of Walter Rodney on this matter. So hopefully I can get this again. Looks like they don't want to play with me. Why? Why you don't want to play with me? Come on. Ah, shoot. I know what I've done wrong. Darn it. No problem. I goofed. One moment, my friends. I want to try to see what I've done wrong here. Thank you for your patience. Oh, heck. Let's just do it again. Come on. All right. A brief biography of Walter Rodney is what Dr. Mary E. Curry has to say. Only 38 years ago, when he was killed, Dr. Walter Rodney was an internationally acclaimed author of 6 scholarly books and numerous academic articles that documented the devastating effects of slavery and colonial imperialism in Africa and the Caribbean. He extended his critical analysis to explain how those effects continue to prevent the progress of newly formed neo-colonial government. His framework was Marxist ideology focused on the working classes. He was critical of capitalism because it promoted individualism instead of cooperative communal efforts. By continuing political economic analysis with archival research, he demonstrated how colonialism resulted in economic inequality and racial ethnic divisions and how neocolonialism continued those damaging effects. Walter Rodney was born in Georgetown, in the capital of then British Guyana. He was an outstanding student, attending the elite Queen's College High School, where he won a scholarship to the University of the West Indies at Mona, Jamaica. After graduating in 1963, he entered the University of London School of Oriental and African Studies, which awarded him a doctorate in African history in 1966 when he was 24 years old. He revised dissertation, interesting there, a history of the Upper Guyana, Guinea coast. 1545 to 1800 was published by Oxford University Press in 1970. From 1966 to 1967, he taught at the University of Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and returned to teach at that university from 1967 to 1974. During 1968, he taught at the University of the West Indies at Mona when he came to the attention of Jamaican government security officers for a meeting with working class groups, including the Rastafarians, an anti-government sect. Rodney expanded his friendship to outside the university campus. He began criticizing Jamaica's middle-class elite and the existing government for ignoring its large population of poor and disadvantaged residents. This was labeled a subversive activity, and the government banned his re-entry after attending a book conference in Canada. This decision prompted a riot, revealing Rodney's popularity even though he had been in Jamaica for less than a year. His 1969 book, Grounding with My Brothers, includes 3 speeches given during those years about decolonization and black power. In 1974, he left his position at the University Dar es Salaam to accept the offer of a professorship at the University of Guyana. However, when he arrived, the offer was withdrawn by the Forbes Burnham PNC, People's National Congress, which had firm control over Guyana's educational system. To support his young family, Rodney accepted temporary teaching positions in the United States and other countries, and also made time to promote an anti-capitalist socialist vision of a more equitable and prosperous future for the newly independent nation through articles and workings on a new book. His research in archival material resulted in a history of Guyanese working people from 1881 to 1905 that would be published by the Johns Hopkins Press, Baltimore, London, 1981. The book documents the unfair labor and economic conditions commonly experienced by the working people of African descent, Afro-Guyanese, about 40% of the population, and East Indian descent, Indo-Guyanese, about 50% of the population. His book presented their common labor experiences and economic suffering as proof that ethnic differences existed in Guyana in 1980 and should be set aside, and all Guyanese working people needed to work together to improve the country's economic and social conditions. He joined and became one of the leaders of a new organization named the Working People's Alliance that formed in 1974. From several smaller organizations, its goal included uniting working people from all ethnic and racial backgrounds in Guyana and obtaining political power by participating in elections. It was WPA's increasing success in uniting citizens from both African and East Indian ethnic backgrounds and declaration as a political party in June of 1917 that created a challenge and Burnham-controlled government had not faced before. Walter Rodney's most influential book, How Europe Undeveloped Africa, came in 1972, provided a new lens to examine the development of nations, remains a model how to analyze capitalist societies and the rise of equality. His life and writings are well documented. His papers are archived at the University of Atlanta's Woodruff Center. There is a Walter A. Rodney Foundation in Atlanta that holds annual symposiums and supports research. And I can say this, sometimes there's a thing called open free market capitalism and state capitalism, mercantilism and all that, or the term fascism. A lot of control stuff. You got people that say want to control and claim, oh yeah, it's open free market, which is totally irrelevant. Because the open free market is voluntary, not conscripted. And what's been happening too, you got folks out there, they treat everyone like, garbage. they don't really know about liberty. As this is how it is. People have different mindsets of where they're from. I'm not, crucifying, on what's going on, because sometimes it may look good on paper, on his work, but maybe the solutions are a different way, subversive as well. Because one thing you got to look at when it comes to the system, it could be what form, who's actually benefiting. That's the question. I got a free will to buy something here and there. And everyone else should too, regardless of what you look like. But it's a pretty interesting little biography about this man. And, like I said, colonial imperialism, and I'm not too crazy about it myself. And people that know my show, I'm not fond of empires. Not at all. But an interesting little story, biography about this man. But I'm going to see what else it has in this thing. Oh, shoot. I think I goofed. No! Oh, right there. Oh, man. Hold on here. I think I screwed up. Yes, I did. Darn it. Oh, wait. I can get it back. Yep, I'm going to get it back here. I made a mistake, folks. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm on my own. I'm doing this on my phone right now. And this is what it has to say. The related links, the biography. Interesting there. But this came out today. The U.S. Embassy in Guyana in 1980 has strong evidence to believe that the death of an internationally known historian and activist, Walter Rodney, in the capital of Georgetown was a political assassination, according to declassified documents obtained and posted for the first time by the National Security Archive at the George Washington University. Rodney, a popular opposition figure in Guyana, known as his sharp critiques of capitalism and as his disapproval of U.S.-backed government, Prime Minister Forbes Burnham, was killed when a bomb exploded in the car and he was driving. The government claimed Rodney himself and his brother Donald were responsible, but the cables posted today described deepening skepticism on the part of the embassy in the face of mounting indications that the authorities had covered up the evidence. In 2014, the President of Guyana established a commission to investigate the death. It was terminated early after new government came to power, but the commission's report nevertheless concluded that state authorities had been behind the operation. Interesting. So, this sounds like an inside job. A source of great frustration to Rodney's family and interest observers is, in fact, that the full report has not yet been released. Today, postings include 20 declassified State Department cables and featured a substantial biography sketch of Rodney, see sidebar, as well as links related to the website. Let's read here, The Life and Death of Dr. Walter Rodney, a brief account. This is what Dr. Curry has to say. On the 4th anniversary of Walter Rodney's death, the National Security Archives publishes the first-time selection of previously classified cables sent between the American Embassy in Georgetown, Guyana, and the Department of State in Washington, D.C. during 1980. The cables revealed how the U.S. involved itself with Rodney and the Working People's Alliance during the turbulent local and regional events of 1980. Evidence of complicity in Rodney's murder by Guyana's government, controlled by the People's National Congress and Prime Minister Lyndon Forbes Burnham, accumulated over the summer, and embassy officials faced difficult choices. Because the Jimmy Carter presidency made human rights a major focus of its foreign policy, embassy officials in Guyana had to both acknowledge the Burnham government's abuse and continue to support its economy as part of the U.S. overall Cold War policy in the Caribbean and South America, Guyana, and the Cold War. The U.S. mandate a working relationship with Guyana despite Guyana implementing a nationalistic, leftist-oriented economic policy in the 1970s, including nationalizing the bauxite industry. Economic aid and loans from International Monetary Fund were used to promote economic development and prevent Cuban and Soviet influence from spreading. U.S. diplomats serving in embassies across the Caribbean kept a close watch on events, as we did employees of the CIA and DIA. The location of Guyana, which is about the size of Idaho, has a population of approximately 800,000 on the north coast of South America, gave it special significance during the Cold War years. The goal was to prevent the Soviet Union from gaining a foothold on the South American continent. Since 1964, the U.S. preferred the Forbes-Burnham PNC government. By 1980, enjoying its 16th year in power over more openly Marxist ideology of the Cheddi Jagan, the leader of the chief opposition of the People's Progressive Party, which is PPP. For documents on the U.S. British Intelligence Agency success, 1964 promoting Forbes over Cheddi. Again, you can see it right here, the briefings. You can look at those documents themselves, folks. The year 1980 was a turbulent one in the Caribbean and worldwide. It was also a presidential election in the year in the U.S. Democratic Party incumbent Jimmy Carter would run against Republican nominee and former California Governor Ronald Reagan. A year earlier, the Shah of Iran had been toppled, and the U.S. Embassy was overrun by student dissidents who would hold embassy staff hostage until January 1981. In March, Maurice Bishop's New Jewel movement overthrew the government of the small island nation of Grenada. In July, the dictator Atanasio Somoza, another longtime U.S. ally, fled Nicaragua, and the Sandinistas took over Managua. In December, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. Repercussions of those events would continue into 1980. Punctuated by the failed hostage rescue attempt in Iran and the start of the 8-year Iraq-Iran War, other regional events in 1980 included a coup in Suriname in February and the Mario boat lift from Cuba, which caused a refugee crisis. Richard Dwyer, who served as the deputy chief of the mission in Guyana from 1978 to July 1980, and appears in these documents, describes the view U.S. policymakers and diplomats. Our problem it wasn't that much of a problem when we didn't want was Cuba on the coast of South America. Probably the most important consideration of the American foreign policy the Carter administration included was there be more or less tranquility in this area. Dwyer described the Prime Minister Forbes-Burnham's government by saying his politics were becoming increasingly unsavory. The country was riddled by corruption, moral and economic. To get along, you had to know what to see and how to see it. Exploring the documentary record, the National Security Archive obtained documents in this posting from the U.S. Department of State through the Freedom of Information Act request seeking all mentions of Walter Rodney during 1980. The request was made on behalf of the Rodney family, who wanted to learn what the American Embassy in Georgetown knew about his death and how it reacted. The 66 documents arrived after the 2014-2015 Commission of Inquiry in Guyana completed its report. See a version of the report here. You can look at it yourselves, folks. But the collection was given to the Rodney family. 20 records reproduced in this posting describe the attempts. There's a helicopter over me. Just hang tight. The records reproduced in this posting describe the attempts of U.S. Ambassador George Roberts and members of his staff to follow new information as it emerged about Rodney's death. The American diplomats seemed genuinely interested in finding out what happened, but troubled at growing evidence that the U.S.-backed regime was covering up existence of an active duty sergeant who allegedly gave the booby-trap walkie-talkie to Rodney. The picture looked bleaker when sources indicated that a senior military officer, Guyanese Defense Force Chief of Staff Norman McLean, may have helped the sergeant, Gregory Smith, escape the country and set him with a shrimp fishing company. Embassy sources included articles in government-controlled and opposition newspapers, government officials, and unnamed individuals. Of particular interest among these records are Ambassador Record's lengthy summary of opinions in mid-August 1980, document 15, and the colorful account, document 18, by former Deputy Chief Mission Dwyer on his interview with shrimp fishing executive in Monarchy, who gave detailed information about the bombing, but in the end may only have clouded the issue further. The cables focus on Rodney's killing, but still manage to give glimpses of surrounding issues: Guyanese politics, American attitudes towards Burnham and his government, and the continuing strong war impulses of American diplomats in the region. One report, for example, while betraying a fate distaste for Burnham, Roberts nevertheless comments that his Marxist rival Che Jagan was still unacceptable to us. Interesting there. So it's the junta game, the factions. Yes, folks, they got him in there. They got him in that form of government and ideology as well, my friends. Nothing new at all. But one of those areas we always got to look at. Differences. How to liberate. People find things different. Well, I always go by what Frederick say on the law about liberty and government faction games of government. You always gotta be observant in these areas. Quo bono, who benefits? That's how you gotta look at it. But it's just like one of those things that can happen. But Walter Rodney, yeah, people have the right to know the truth how he passed. You have to agree with his ideology. But colonialism, yeah, it's very dirty. Politics is a dirty game. But there's a lot of things about it. There's a lot of information on this link pertaining to Walter Rodney. So here's the whole rundown on this. I'm just going to read. Very interesting indeed. So there's a lot of documents in that. You can read it and you make your own judgment, folks. Yeah, it's very disheartening when you see all these things. And there's lots more information pertaining to this man. And I say, make your own judgment. Imperialism, internal battles, infighting has always existed. Dr. Walter Rodney sees things differently. He may have it for his own people's best interest, but others will have it for personal gain. Remember, everyone's different. I don't have to agree with his ideology if you want to see things better. So I can't make any judgment on this man, but there's plenty of information. You can look this yourselves. It goes way, way down there. Lots of stuff on him. And, hey, happy hunting. And tell me what you think, all right? All right, folks, that is it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, if you say something that's interesting you want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondence to the corner. Furthermore, I'll leave this footnote on my Spreaker page. If you want to donate, you can hit me at paypal.me/LokiLuck3. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.